Twin Jades of Jiangdong. Chapter 19. Returning home. The dark clouds parted, and the afternoon sunlight came streaming down. As Zhou Yu washed his hands, he listened to the discussion coming from the tea room. Soon Sa's voice spoke. Last night, Gongjin and I agreed that based on the current situation, it would not be beneficial to remain here for long. Even if Shu County doesn't care, it's still not a good long-term plan. Zhou Yu was silent as he placed the kettle under the bamboo spout to fill it with water, watching butterflies flutter amongst the flowers. What do you have planned? Huang Gai asked. Zhou Yu raised you as his lord, and maybe everyone has the same thought in mind today. But you are hasty and quick to act, so you must think things over before you take action. Us uncles have not mentioned this to you, but you must be wary of doing so. Sun Sa was quiet for another while, before he continued, as if he had made his decision. Yuan Shu's letter has come, and I've decided as well. Generals, break camp and set off, we're going back to Shaochun. You've truly thought it through? Chang Pu asked. N. Sun Sa nodded, watching the silhouette of Zhou Yu's back in the yard. The kettle had already been completely filled, and water slowly seeped out of the spout, making noises as it did so. Zhou Yu's arms were crossed in his sleeves, yet he did not turn his head. Gongjin was right, Sun Sa said, letting out a sigh. Yuan Shu only fears me, Sun Sa. If you generals were to pledge yourselves in service of him instead, you would definitely be treated generously. And today, my Changsha line has grown homeless and destitute, without a home to cross the threshold of, not to mention with the current situation of this world, without a place to rest ourselves. It'd be better to save your strength and join Yuan Shu's troops. Allow me the time to compose a missive, Sun Sa said, looking into each of their eyes, one by one, so that I may release my grip on this military power, and hide myself in Mount Gu. Generals, when Yuan Shu takes you under his command, remember not to mention me too much. Simply say that my heart was like ash, and I had no desire to seek revenge. I simply wanted to be a turtle hiding in its shell on Mount Gu, on the banks of Lake Chao, and that will suffice. Sun Sa was still teasing them, yet no one laughed. He continued, as for changing allegiances to Yuan Shu, the sooner you do that, the better. What you do after that, I will allow uncles to deal with expediently. Yuan Shu is a man who loses sight of his goal because of greed, and he is petty as well. Zhou Yu spoke from within the yard. Yuan Shu has gained the imperial seal, and with his personality, he will choose a day and declare himself as emperor. In the tea room, no one had a response to that. Zhou Yu came in carrying the kettle, and he set it on the stove, before saying earnestly, whoever proclaims himself as emperor in the current situation will be branded as traitor to all. Yuan Shu's breaths are numbered. All we need to do is wait for him to bring about his own demise, before we can take the opportunity and conquer Shaochun. And though the generals here would have bound themselves to Yuan Shu, Zhou Yu said, I imagine that none of you are at the same level of trash as that bastard. Those that walk different paths will not be able to make plans together, so all you need to do is hide your abilities and bide your time, waiting for Sun Lang's edict to arrive. Exactly, Sun Sa replied. Hide your abilities and bide your time. Bring your 4,000 people and one letter all to Yuan Shu. Leave 100 people with me in Shu County, that will be enough. Everyone, how does this plan sound to you? Fei left and returned, and the day the Changsha troops broke camp and set off, Chang Pu and the rest all had reddened eyes. Though Zhou Yu's plan seemed to be completely flawless, everything in this world was capable of an endless number of changes, and no one knew what awaited them in the future. After the group bid farewell to Sun Sa, they led the main force of the Changsha troops away from Mount Gu. Zhou Yu and Sun Sa walked slowly back along the mountain path. The autumn air was clear and crisp, and the mountain wind rustled through the trees. In recent days, Sun Sa had spoken very little, so little that he was almost a mute. Sometimes, Zhou Yu even suspected that Sun Sa wanted to remain on Mount Gu, free himself from the passions and desires of the mortal realm, and go practice meditation with the mute monk. But after he made up his mind, his entire being was like a leaf in the winter snow, gradually growing alive again. Sun Lang, Zhou Yu said. Call me He, Sun Sa said from the front, where he was walking without even turning back. There was a hint of a smile in his voice. What are you being so distant for? Everyone else calls me Sun Lang, and you're following their example in calling me Sun Lang. Zhou Yu began to chuckle. Sun Sa turned his head back and glanced at Zhou Yu, before asking, want to go fly kites? All right. Zhou Yu nodded, and with an arch of his eyebrows, Sun Sa bought a kite in the market next to the lake. Just like when they were small, Sun Sa tugged the string and walked in front, while Zhou Yu let go. The kite flew upwards, directly into the blue sky above. I'm going to say something, don't pretend like you don't like to hear it, Zhou Yu said. Say it. Sun Sa tugged on the line, intently watching the kite fly in the sky. Zhou Yu said, your dad's generals are like a Jianghu faction. If things continue in this way, it will not be appropriate in the long run. The old man never thought that he would die, Sun Sa said, turning his head and giving Zhou Yu a glance. You understand? When he heard Sun Sa speak this way, Zhou Yu finally knew that Sun Sa had already moved on. Sun Sa's pain and grief seemed to calm itself faster than his had. Back then, when his father died, Zhou Yu had used a whole 3 years to change himself, before he managed to move on from that incident. But Sun Sa could already smile at this moment. The subjects are not like every subject, while the master is not like all master, Sun Sa said. Ever since he gathered an army and began to serve the imperial court, things had been that way. He was just like the eldest brother of a faction, and he called his subordinates brothers, making it so that not a single one of them was willing to bow to another, and only he could keep them under control. When he was still here, that worked well, but now that he's no longer here, he left behind a mess for me to clean up, which is why all these bad practices are surfacing. How are you planning to handle this? Zhou Yu asked. Sun Sa tilted his head up and glanced once more. The kite had already flown high into the sky, so Sun Sa handed the string to Zhou Yu and said, since you've asked that question, it's clear that you have long since come up with a plan. Your subordinates, Zhou Yu said, includes far more than just them. If this plan succeeds, you must understand that you are the young master of Changsha, so you must not repeat your father's mistakes. Sun Sa nodded, and Zhou Yu continued, a lord is a lord, while subordinates are subordinates. Since you've understood, then let's begin with me. Zhou Yu had a hint of a smile about his face as he spoke. He originally thought that Sun Sa would freeze for a moment at that, but he didn't expect Sun Sa to reply, his face bright and sunny, no. Zhou Yu. In this matter alone, Sun Sa said, I cannot compromise. Zhou Yu was at his wits' end dealing with Sun Sa, who simply turned his head back and said, but don't worry, I know what to do. Since Sun Sa had said that, Zhou Yu could do nothing more than trust him. After all, he did not wish for Sun Sa to completely follow every single word he said. At least, with things to think about, his mood would slowly grow better, just like how back in the day, when Zhou Yu's father had died, Sun Sa had spent every day not saying anything, simply keeping him company by his side. He knew that sometimes, though Sun Sa mentioned it, he would not be happy to live out the rest of his life in Shu County. In just a few days, the knot in his heart had slowly been undone, and he began to act like a big monkey again, playing about and causing trouble. The autumn solstice of another year arrived, and a secret letter had already arrived from Shaochun. Changpu and the rest had already changed their allegiance, and Yuan Shu had been greatly pleased. He had arranged posts for them immediately, and had also sent along money and rations to placate Sun Sa, along with a letter persuading him to leave the mountain once more and be a martial official. Sun Sa knew that this was a trap to lure out the enemy. If he went to Yuan Shu's manor to take up a position, how would he walk out of there alive? With that, he and Zhou Yu had a discussion, and Zhou Yu dictated while Sun Sa penned his words, replying with a copious 1,000 words. The general gist of it was that he needed to pay respects to his father for 3 years, and could not desert such a duty. He had fought all his life, and had already sprouted white hairs at such a young age. As of today, his body was ridden with wounds, and his heart was exhausted. Only by remaining in Shu County could he truly feel a moment's peace. Zhou Yu was still not very satisfied, but he had no choice but to send that letter on his behalf. Sun Sa folded up the letter and replied smilingly, "I truly do think that." "Think what?" Zhou Yu asked, putting the ink box away. As if he had already thought this over, Sun Sa replied, "When I was out fighting in Luoyang and Changsha, I often thought of your home, so when you told me to let my mother and yours live together, I responded with nothing else but willing agreement." "No matter how large the world is," Sun Sa smiled, putting the letter away, "only this place is home. Everywhere else is nothing more than a temporary place of rest, and only the blue waves of Lake Chao and the beautiful views from Mount Gu can bring peace to my heart." Zhou Yu replied, "The scenery here is indeed picturesque, to the point where, back during the previous dynasty, people often said that this was a land of plenty, untouched by the flames of war, during even the Qin dynasty. But we can only discuss such matters after we are done with our battle, as the land of tenderness is the downfall of heroes. After this year, we must not tarry long here." "Whose land of tenderness?" Sun Sa asked, grinning. Zhou Yu sent a wooden cup flying towards him, which Sun Sa nimbly dodged. He snatched the cup, only for water to splash all over his head, and he laughed as he walked out the door to give the letter to a messenger. Lady Wu and the Zhou matriarch seemed to be staying completely out of Zhou Yu and Sun Sa's matters. Sun Sa originally wanted to help Zhou Yu organize the family business during his time here, but when he found a record book, he found that almost all of the silk fields and silk stalls had been liquidated, leaving behind some tens of acres of ancestral land and less than 1,000 taels of silver. Sun Sa asked, "You sold off all the businesses that your ancestors passed down?" Zhou Yu had an arm wrapped around Sun Quan as he taught him to write. He raised his head at that and glanced at Sun Sa, replying, "Aren't the ancestral fields all there still?" Sun Sa shot back, "What did you spend all the money on?" "Buying ships, training troops, and gathering soldiers," Zhou Yu said. "I handed it all over to Lu Zijing." Sun Sa held the record book and stood there for a long while without making a sound, before turning to search through the reports on running the army that Lu Su had sent every month. He looked at them for a while, then at Zhou Yu, then back at the report. "What are you looking at?" Zhou Yu didn't know what he was trying to do. "Is there something on my face?" "Lu Zijing is a talented man," Sun Sa chuckled, but when he looked back down at the report, something seemed to drip from his eye onto the page. He then put the book away and walked into the yard, sitting down and staring blankly into the clear sky of late autumn. With a kind tone and gentle words, Zhou Yu was teaching Sun Quan how to compose an essay. Compared to the impatient Sun Sa, Sun Quan evidently preferred Zhou Yu more. Without any due cause, he'd hug Zhou Yu's neck and act spoiled, and sometimes, he'd even make jokes about him. "What are you planning on doing after the spring comes?" Sun Sa asked, without even turning his head from his position in the corridor, facing away from Zhou Yu and the sticky Sun Quan in his lap. "I don't have any plans," Zhou Yu replied offhandedly. "I'll stay here." "What plans could I have?" "I'm planning on crossing the river to go seek out my maternal uncle," Sun Sa said. "Oh," Zhou Yu said lightly, a cunning, smug smile hanging about the corners of his mouth. "You finally can't sit still any longer. Can I come?" Sun Quan immediately piped up. Zhou Yu made a shushing gesture towards Sun Quan, indicating for him not to interrupt. "I'm also planning on crossing the river to find my uncle," Zhou Yu replied easily. "You go find your uncle, while I go find mine." Taken aback, Sun Sa asked, "Don't try to pull the wool over my eyes. Where is your uncle?" "On my father's side," Zhou Yu said, beginning to smile. "My father's older brother. What are you finding him for?" Sun Sa asked. Zhou Yu didn't reply to that. Sun Sa added, "Can you bring me?" Zhou Yu said, a smile in his eyes. "Let me consider it." Sun Sa replied, "I heard that someone offered up a city as a dowry before." Zhou Yu replied with a straight face, "If you keep being so slippery with words, then I won't bring you." Sun Sa hurried to beg pardon, before rising and saying, "Your uncle is the prefect of Danyang, Zhoushan, is he not?" Zhou Yu nodded slightly. The winter of this year was particularly cold, and just as the last month came, heavy snowfall sealed the doors. The warships on the banks of Lake Chao were pulled up on the shore, and Lu Su no longer trained his troops. Zhou Yu and Sun Sa went out of their way to check on him, and the three of them paid their respects to Madame Zhou and Madame Sun in Zhou Yu's house. They drank some light wine and ate the four-colored vegetables. It was almost New Year's, and for a time, the weather warmed up, so the yard was filled with the brilliant purples and bright reds of fresh blossoms, each petal flourishing with life. After they celebrated New Year's, on the second day of the first month, the Zhou family and the Sun family each paid their respects to their ancestors. Sun Sa and Zhou Yu also paid their respects to both their deceased fathers, before the two of them packed their bags. That coincided with a cold spell before spring came, so the mountains and valleys were filled with icy chill. The two of them wrapped themselves in thick fur cloaks, bid farewell to their mothers at home, and prepared to set off. Zhou Yu had brought along less than 100 taels of gold, preparing to visit, together with Sun Sa, first Zhoushan in Danyang, then Wu Jing in the Wu Commandery. After all, they were both of their own families. Since the current political situation had not yet stabilized, they would probably be able to receive some care. Since Sun Sa came to Shu County before the end of last year, it had been a good half a year since he had left Mount Gu. When he arrived, he was in high spirits, having just come off the battlefield, while today, he was all alone in the world. Thankfully, there was still Zhou Yu to keep him company. The two of them journeyed leisurely during the day, admiring the scenery, while at night they slept in one bed, so close that there was no space between them. Sometimes, heavy snow would blanket the sky, and when the cold weather traveled down south, they didn't insist on hurrying along. Instead, they stayed in way stations, chatting, drinking wine, and warming themselves by the fire. All they talked about were elegant and interesting matters. Ever since that day Zhou Yu forded the river, this section of it had never frozen over. Now, they stood amidst the heavy snow that danced around them like cotton, as they headed north on a boat. Zhou Yu didn't know why, but when he heard a particular tune, he began to recall that arrogant, bossy Ganzingba. "What are you thinking about?" Sun Sa had his hands stuck in his sleeves, huffing out white fog. Zhou Yu glanced at him and smiled, but didn't say anything to that. "In a while, when we meet my uncle," Zhou Yu cautioned, "you'd best not be so slippery of speech." Sun Sa was carrying a traveling pack on his back. He hopped off the boat, saying, "N." Zhou Yu continued, in front of him, "You must not argue with me solely for the sake of arguing. Never mind others, you're already used to arguing with me without a higher purpose, but my uncle has always been very prudent. A few teasing sentences, and you may have already slighted him." Sun Sa replied, "When have I ever argued with you for solely the sake of arguing? You simply can't beat me in a verbal battle, so you often find fault unreasonably. You're arguing for the sake of arguing right now." Zhou Yu said angrily, green veins standing out on his forehead. Sun Sa laughed at that. Zhou Yu added, "When you see him, make sure that you go along with what he says. You can give me some face, but you'd best not boast overly much." "Why does this sound like I'm meeting my father-in-law?" Sun Sa asked. "Are you my wife?" He won't think that your husband is poor and send me packing with a few swats of a rod, will he? The joints in Zhou Yu's hands popped from the strength of his grip. Sun Sa hurried to reply, mock seriously, I swear I won't say a single word I'm not supposed to. Zhou Yu grabbed Sun Sa's collar. In a bit, if you fool around, you're going to get 2 beatings. I understand, Sun Sa said, immediately understanding his meaning and nodding his head. 1 beating will be from you, while the other will be from your uncle. As long as you understand, Zhou Yu replied, smiling as gently as the spring breeze. When Zhou Yu arrived at the Danyang estate and handed over his visiting card, he immediately startled the entire estate's worth of people. Sun Sa was still peeking around, following behind Zhou Yu like an attendant. Zhou Shang had been in the middle of conducting a town hall session, so there was a group of scholars in the yard, and he didn't have the time at the moment to look after Zhou Yu. Like a light cart traveling over familiar roads, Zhou Yu ordered the kitchens to prepare some small snacks, which he personally brought over to Sun Sa. The 2 of them then ate in the gatehouse. Though spring had already come, it was still cruelly cold, and both their faces were red from the chill. Sun Sa asked, you didn't need to go to Shaochun to come to Danyang originally, and your uncle's estate isn't lacking in anything. Why'd you go running off to Shaochun? The corners of Zhou Yu's mouth twitched, and he replied, I wonder which forgetful person it was that told me to meet him in Shaochun? Otherwise, why would I go running there for no reason? Sun Sa remembered. Zhou Yu had gone there specially to slave away for Yuan Shu, for no other reason than for Sun Sa's sake. At that, he scratched his head and smiled abashedly, trying to find something to say. Zhou Yu, however, was still as nervous as he had been, and he told Sun Sa, my uncle has always looked down on others, so on my behalf, if he needles you with a sentence or 2, you must not make a fuss. Sun Sa watched Zhou Yu, torn between laughing and crying. Zhou Yu was still worrying over that, so he added, you hear me. Sun Sa patted the back of Zhou Yu's hand and comforted him. You can rest assured. Am I that easily provoked? If it's for you, I've even managed to take a whole cartful of stabs, so how hard can it be to keep my head down? But Zhou Yu replied, you don't need to keep your head down for him to look down on you. Then what do you want me to do? Sun Sa asked helplessly. If I simply don't speak, that'll work, right? Then, in a while, he'll blame you for bringing a piece of wood along. Zhou Yu also felt that he was being too anxious for nothing, so he couldn't resist laughing loudly at that. A moment later, he thought for a bit, before saying, ah well, let all of that go. Say whatever you want, these few sentences won't make much of a difference. End chapter. Twin Jades of Jiangdong. Chapter 20. Danyang. As they were speaking, Zhou Shang sent a servant to invite them over. At that, Zhou Yu straightened his robes and rose, walking into the courtyard, before he suddenly remembered something and turned to straighten Sun Sa's robes. Sun Sa was a little bit taller than Zhou Yu, and on their way here, his robes had become covered in snow. After it melted, he had draped his robe by the stove to dry it, and now he had to put it on in a hurry, so he didn't have the time to clean up. Zhou Yu walked behind Sun Sa, turning the collar of his robe so that the inner mink fur lining faced out, before he then knelt down on one knee, straightening the hem. Sun Sa hurriedly said, no need to worry, otherwise if your uncle sees this he'll scold us. The old man hasn't come yet, Zhou Yu said. Don't be anxious for no reason, that man. Zhou Yu, a severe voice said from under the eaves of the corridor. Immediately, Zhou Yu felt a cold shiver down his back. Sun Sa never imagined that there would be someone out there that even Zhou Yu feared, so he stood there awkwardly for a long while, unable to think of even a single sentence to say in response. In the corridor, there stood a broad-shouldered, broad-waisted civil official. Though there was no rage in his eyes, that gaze was imposing. Zhou Yu hurried to rise and bow with his hands cupped in front. Uncle. That person was indeed Zhou Shang. With that, Sun Sa smiled slightly, in a manner that was neither too humble nor too arrogant, and he cupped his hands and greeted him. Prefect Zhou. Wu. Zhou Shang already knew who Sun Sa was, as Zhou Yu's writ of visitation had stated. He looked the two of them up and down, and once he was done, said, "Come in." Sun Sa sat down as soon as he entered, while Zhou Yu walked around to stand behind him, sitting down in a kneel a little left and behind where Sun Sa was. He took the cup that the serving girl handed him, brewing tea for Sun Sa. Zhou Shang hadn't seen his nephew Zhou Yu for many years. The last time was a hasty glance 4 years ago, when he had carried Zhou Yi's casket. That day, Sun Sa had also been present, but upon seeing that Zhou Yu had already become Sun Sa's subordinate now, he was quite surprised. Even Sun Sa himself found it a little strange, but when he turned his head back to look, a single glance from Zhou Yu caused him to feel a little calmer. "A few days ago, I heard about the recent developments with your father," Zhou Shang said, getting right to the point as soon as he spoke. "A letter also came from Shu County. Before the new year, your uncle came by Danyang, and we had a small get-together. When the topic of you hiding your abilities and biding your time came up, we all agreed that that was not easy for you. Zhou Daran is praising me too highly," Sun Sa said sincerely, with a raise of his eyebrows. "My father has passed, and all my ambitions turned to ash. I simply wish to observe the proper 3 years of mourning for my father." Zhou Shang let out a cold chuckle as he replied, "Zhou Yu being this anachronistic is one thing, but are you joining him in being so anachronistic? If, one day, I were to return to the West, I would never force my son to mourn me for 3 whole years." Sun Sa smiled, abashed. Zhou Shang continued, "Zhou Yu, how is your mother's health? With your blessing, well." When Zhou Yu saw his uncle, his entire demeanor grew still and calm. Though there was still an air of youth about him, his speech and movements were very measured. It was only when he lifted the cup and handed it to Sun Sa that he showed a little bit of nervousness. He continued, "Mother and Madam Sun are staying together. Having a companion to chat with can help alleviate their fatigue." A civil official bowed and handed Zhou Shang a wooden box. He opened the lid with both hands and revealed a letter inside. Zhou Shang took the letter out, placed it to one side, and said to Sun Sa, "Sun Bafu, your father was the Tiger of Jiangdong, and his title the Pola General. Though he perished on the battlefield and his body was buried on Mount Xian, as of today, his subordinates have all turned their backs on you and returned to Shaochun. Do you not have any plans at all?" "It was this nephew who sent them away," Sun Sa explained. "Compared to staying in Shu County, it would be better for them to find a way out as soon as they could." Zhou Shang let out another cold grunt, before asking, "Then how about you?" Zhou Shang's words were like the edge of a knife, giving Sun Sa no chance to think at all. They were not polite either, and Sun Sa finally seemed to have learned his lesson. He didn't even dare to look at Zhou Yu, instead raising his gaze to study Zhou Shang's expression, and he said earnestly, "If there is a good opportunity, then I will make another attempt at rising." "How will you rise?" Zhou Shang asked coldly in reply. "You have no troops, and no money. If my father could rise against all odds during the chaos between the heroes," Sun Sa said, leaning forward slightly, "then Sun Sa can as well. Never mind that the furrows left behind by my predecessors cannot be traveled again. Gongjin also taught me that I must first learn to understand the situation at hand." "Ah well," Zhou Shang said, "I have often heard that you are whimsical and flippant, but seeing you today, you seem to have become quite a bit steadier. If you restrain your natural inclinations, it is within your ability to lead troops into battle." Zhou Yu was silently and focused on grinding tea leaves, before soaking them in hot water and sifting out the shreds. Zhou Shang glanced at Zhou Yu, before continuing, "This is a letter of condolence that was delivered here from Chang'an, which was originally supposed to be sent to you via me. However, because of the heavy snow before the new year, and the multitude of matters I had to deal with, I was delayed for a time. Read it, Ba. Zhou Shang's subordinate handed the letter over. Zhou Yu put down the cup, took the letter with both hands, and pulled it out and spread it open. Sun Sa gave Zhou Yu a look, and Zhou Yu began to read. That was a letter that Lu Bu had written. Lu Bu had already entered Chang'an as Dong Zhou had, and Dong Zhou had taken the city and declared himself king. Upon hearing that Sun Jian had died, Lu Bu could not win against Asai, and he was writing this letter in tribute. As soon as Zhou Yu read the beginning, Sun Sa understood its intent, and he said, I won't go to Chang'an. Why are you not going? Zhou Shang asked methodically as he drank his tea unconcernedly. Sun Sa replied, those that walk different paths will not be able to make plans together. Zhou Shang did not say any more. One stick of incense's time passed before Zhou Shang continued, every day that thief Dong is not gotten rid of is one more day spent without peace. The thief Dong Zhou must be gotten rid of, Sun Sa said in reply, but also, Yuan Shu of Shaochun is watching with a hostile gaze. That's right, Zhou Shang said, letting out a long breath. Chaos abounds, and traitors are rising all around. It is hard. Zhou Shang shook his head. Zhou Yu said, we came this time to ask for your assistance in this matter. What assistance can I even provide? Zhou Shang asked in reply. I'm already halfway into the dirt. Sun Sa replied, Prefect Zhou has governed Danyang for a long while, and whether the people are for you or against you, you can tell in a single glance. To pacify Jiangdong, we require the assistance of the prefect, and we came here exactly for this. Zhou Shang's motion of sipping his tea paused for a moment, but he didn't look at Sun Sa. Zhou Yu's palm was wet with sweat. He hadn't thought that Sun Sa would get to the point so quickly and speak of his true intentions. If I were to hand the Danyang militia over to you, Zhou Shang said, and you bring them to war, can you bring them back peacefully? Sun Sa didn't reply. Zhou Shang continued, if Yuan Shu and his men were to ambush us in the coming days, can you protect all the citizens of my Danyang city? Sun Sa still didn't speak. Zhou Shang continued, if I were to hand Danyang over to you, could you treat all the people well? After a long silence, Sun Sa opened his mouth and spoke. Prefect Zhou, destiny determines life and death, and the heavens determine success and failure. Living in a turbulent world is not easy, and Sun Sa has no way to promise that not a single soldier will be lost. Sun Sa may also not be able to protect the entire city's worth of people, but if anyone wishes to forcefully take Danyang, Sun Sa can only vow that he will live and die together with this land. Zhou Shang raised his gaze and narrowed his eyes, studying Sun Sa with a forceful gaze. Zhou Yu, however, acted as if he hadn't heard anything. He placed a pot of tea on the table in front of Sun Sa. Live and die together. Zhou Shang eked out a few cold chuckles. Sun Sa said, Danyang is bountiful, but when the fires of war start burning, the tens of thousands of fertile lands in this world, and the land of Jingzhou as well, will find it difficult to preserve themselves on their own efforts. Prefect Zhou, Lu Biao's way will not work. Sun Sa's words were clearly spoken very directly, and Zhou Shang was a little displeased at that. Zhou Yu hurried to shoot him a glance, as if to say that he shouldn't let that didactic tone sneak into his voice. Sun Sa, however, also used a glance to convey that it was fine, and he patted the back of Zhou Yu's hand to comfort him. Zhou Shang said, your dad's personality leaned too far towards advancing rashly. As of now, since the entirety of Jiangdong is discussing this battle, so don't fault me for saying something unkind, nephew. Being valiant is good, but it is easy for bold people to be too headstrong. As of today, the Changsha troops have already been incorporated into another army, and for you to rise to the cause once more will be very difficult. No matter how difficult it is, I must rise to the occasion. My dad would lose, but I will not. Every corner of Jiangdong is preparing to weather the storm, Sun Sa said. Turbulent times will soon arrive, this is unavoidable, but in this world, even if you don't fight anyone, others will come to fight you. I ask that the Lord Prefect to reconsider. Zhou Shang replied coldly, looks like nephew soon has come to teach this old man a lesson instead. I don't dare, Sun Sa hurriedly said. It's just that recently, I received some sudden inspiration. Whatever. Zhou Shang rose and left his seat, and Zhou Yu's heart thumped. Keep drinking. Zhou Shang slowly walked away. I told you, don't speak out of turn. Zhou Yu's teeth were gritted in anger. Sun Sa's expression was one of confusion. I already held back in my speech. Aya. Don't. Sun Sa hadn't finished speaking when Zhou Yu pinched his ear. Zhou Yu said, your last words were clearly adding feet onto a snake. He already agreed to hand the Danyang military command over to you. Sun Sa sat to one side, hanging his head, as Zhou Yu, full of rage, scolded him with seemingly no end. A while later, the head servant of the prefect's manor came, and Zhou Yu and Sun Sa immediately stopped talking. The prefect requests young Master Zhou's presence in the back courtyard for a chat, the head servant said, his eyes lowered. Zhou Yu passed through the fine snow filling the air, only to see Zhou Shang standing in the back courtyard, a servant carrying a lantern following behind him. Zhou Yu first bowed and greeted his father's brother, before standing primly and properly to one side. Zhou Shang was harsh and severe in personality, and he was picky about following the rules of etiquette. Since he didn't speak, Zhou Yu didn't say anything either. A long while later, Zhou Shang let out a long sigh. This time, aside from Danyang, where else are you going? Lying. Has Wu Jing already prepared for your arrival? He has not, Zhou Yu said, politely and properly. After Sun Jian died, I originally thought that his two sons would be a little more behaved, Zhou Shang said darkly. Zhou Yu didn't reply. Zhou Shang continued, you think that with just you two, you can beat Yuan Shu? Zhou Yu thought for a moment, before replying, we have uncle and prefect Wu Jing. At this moment, Yuan Shu has proclaimed himself emperor with the jade seal, so this is the perfect time to sway the hearts of the people. I imagine that he will not act hastily to take care of this nephew. What do you think of Sun Sa as a person? Zhou Shang asked. This time, Zhou Yu didn't dare to respond hastily. After a long while, and deep thought, he replied with 10 words. He is forthright and generous, valiant and adept at planning. Zhou Shang replied, I see him showing promise as a commander, but it will be difficult to follow him. Ah well, since he has you at his side, then I'll take this bet. He spoke well, as soon as turbulent times come, no one will be able to survive alone unscathed. I'm growing old, I'll leave Danyang to you too. When Zhou Yu heard these words, he finally set down the stone in his heart. Tomorrow, this child will set off to Liang. Zhou Shang nodded, so Zhou Yu bowed and took his leave. When he returned to the visiting room, Sun Sa was amusing himself by making some sort of gesture. When Zhou Yu walked into the room, he put away the smile that was stretching across his face, keeping his expression impassive. Sun Sa raised his head, smiling like nothing more than a big child. How did it go? Did it work? It almost turned into a shit show because of you. Zhou Yu scolded him. Sun Sa laughed loudly, rising and leaning against Zhou Yu. That night, they didn't stay within the manor, instead choosing to search for a place to stay outside. The city at night was filled with lights from the houses, and Zhou Yu fetched some warm water to wash his face. With Danyang as their support, what came later would be much easier to handle. The next day, Zhou Yu and Sun Sa walked around inside the city. They didn't go to disturb Zhou Shang, instead simply observing the people of this place, as well as the defenses the city guards had. Zhou Yu estimated the money and rations they had, while Sun Sa asked after the strength of the army. When the two of them arrived in the east of the city, Someone came from the prefect's manor to hand over the military account books that listed the amount of money and rations they had. Everything matched with Zhou Yu's predictions. Danyang would be their first stronghold, and in order not to butt heads with Zhou Yu bought an estate in the city, where they could handle their daily affairs. With that, the prefect and the two of them were separate, and if Yuan Shu sent anyone to ask, it would be easy to explain as well. Fei let out a screech as it came towards them, piercing through the new snow. Zhou Yu was currently penning a notice, the gist of which was that they were recruiting troops within the city. His handwriting was bold and filled with vigor. Sun Ce stood in the courtyard for a long while, but didn't speak. "What's wrong?" Zhou Yu asked. "It's a letter from Lu Zijing," Sun Ce replied. "Chang'an sent it to Shu County, and Shu County then transferred it to us." "Let me see," Zhou Yu replied. Sun Ce opened the letter and put it on the table, before pulling out his own seal and pressing it against the paper. On the seal were the words, "Polu General Sun." Zhou Yu glanced over the letter, and he immediately froze. This letter was a warrant that Luoyang had sent. The emperor bestowed the title of General Polu upon Sun Ce after Sun Jian's death. Which was to say, Sun Ce had officially inherited his father's position. "We can start our own office now," Zhou Yu said. "This is great. But why would Dongzhou?" Sun Ce gestured for him to look at where the seal had been applied to the letter. On it was the seal of the general of the household, Lu Bu, as well as the emperor's seal. The imperial jade seal was still in Yuan Shu's hands, so the warrant could only do this much. Sun Ce smiled as he spoke. "Despite this favor he has bestowed on us with this, we still can't go fight for Luoyang yet. If we can settle this place down, that'll already be a pretty good outcome," Zhou Yu said. "If we were to fight for Luoyang, Lu Fengxian is there guarding it, and I do not dare disturb him." The afternoon of that day, Zhou Yu sent Sun Ce a stack of notices, and the two of them split up to paste those notices across the city. They had no helpers and had to do everything on their own. During the afternoon market, when the citizens saw the notices, the people that came to sign up and enlist formed a whole line. Zhou Yu sat upright, asking each of them about their family situation. "Are you General Sun's son?" someone asked. Sun Ce sat, smiling jovially to one side, listening to Zhou Yu organizing squads for him. Zhou Yu raised his brush and wrote down a note, replying, "Yes." That person continued. "Back then, when the prefect of Changsha was passing by, he saved this lowly one's family from falling into the murderous grasp of the Yellow Turban Army. Now, my entire family, from young to old, all wish to repay that debt." Sun Ce let out a sigh. He rose to bow to him, and that person hurriedly bowed back to Sun Ce in reply. "We often hear in Chang County that the prefect died to arrows, and my family all told me to go join the army, to get revenge for the Lord Prefect," that person continued. "In the future, whether we endure the wind and the rain, or the fires of war, I will always listen to General Sun's orders." Sun Ce's eyes immediately reddened at that, and he nodded. "I will not let Dage down, since you have entrusted your life to me." Zhou Yu handed over the note, telling the people that remained to go to the prefect's estate to retrieve tallies, leather armor, and weapons. When the sun set behind the western mountains, some 400 people had already gathered outside the estate, all of them coming because of Sun Ce's reputation. "The gates are closing," Zhou Yu said. "Come back tomorrow." "Young Master Zhou," someone said, cupping their hands in their sleeves. "For the brothers that aren't in a rush, can you grant each of us a meal? We heard the news in the morning and all came over from the rural areas outside the city, but since the sky's grown dark, we can't get out." With that, Zhou Yu went inside to get some money, and he handed each of them some, telling them to go find a place to rest temporarily. Sun Ce was practicing his staff moves in the courtyard, while Zhou Yu was in the hallway writing and calculating. Sun Ce said, 400 people is enough. Tomorrow, I'll bring them to Liang. Don't fuss too much about our rations either, because when the time comes, we'll still have to go find my uncle and ask him to assign me some men to train the troops. Zhou Yu replied, we're not in a rush, we do not need to go tomorrow. Either way, we'll have to take 10 days to half a month, as the matters of each place need to be settled before it'll be suitable for us to leave. Sun Ce replied, I'm afraid that if we stay here for too long, things might change. What are you in a rush for? Zhou Yu put down his pen, looking into Sun Ce's eyes. Sun Ce thought for a bit, before replying, I'm afraid that if we dally here for 2 or 3 months, Liang might get cornered by the Wu commandery. Is that so? Zhou Yu asked. Though the prefect of Wu commandery, Su Gong, has yet to announce his allegiances, he draws his rations from Yuan Shu. Right now, if you were to bring your 400 new troops that haven't even been trained to Liang, are you not afraid that Su Gong would send a secret report to Yuan Shu, and have your troops detained in Liang? It won't come to that, Sun Ce said easily with a wave of his hand, coming to Zhou Yu's side. My uncle can hold out. You're this anxious to set off because you want to get revenge, isn't that right? Zhou Yu asked. After organizing these troops in Liang, you'll send a secret message along the way to Chengpu, Huanggai and the rest of the generals, telling them to bring the men back so that you can seek revenge for your father. Sun Ce was thinking that in his heart. Zhou Yu's guess had been spot on. Sun Ce replied, I can hide nothing from you. Zhou Yu said, I saw you beginning to write letters as soon as spring came. Sun Ce replied, heading down to Jingzhou requires us to have a navy. Now that we have a navy, and our people have returned, what's wrong with letting Chengpu bring the troops out from under Yuan Shu's command? Why don't you tell me what's wrong? Zhou Yu replied. I've already intercepted the letter. Sun Ce replied, I was wondering why there was no response. Sun Ce rose and came to a stop in front of the courtyard. Small, densely packed snowflakes were falling from the sky. Are you angry? Zhou Yu asked. Sun Ce didn't make a sound. Did you never think about it? Zhou Yu asked. If you steal Yuan Shu's troops to get revenge, though you will have gotten your revenge, will Yuan Shu let us go after we return from Jingzhou? That bastard is best at holding grudges, and when that time comes, both attacking and retreating will be difficult. He will never allow you to remain in Danyang again. Sun Ce asked in reply, if we gain Jingzhou, do we still need to return to Danyang? You think Jingzhou is so easy to govern? Zhou Yu tossed his brush aside, also growing angry. Think these trivial things through clearly, Zhou Yu frowned. Jingzhou is full of martial families. If we can't even take care of Jiangdong, if a group of us as outsiders enter Jingzhou, there is no way we will have an easy time. Sun Ce didn't reply to that directly. He only said, I want revenge. Zhou Yu said lightly, my father died at the hands of Huaxiang, but as of today, Huaxiang has died as well, so I'm not sure where I should seek revenge for my father. Which is why, Sun Ce said, turning his head to give Zhou Yu a glance, you must kill your enemies with your own blade. This matter must be dealt with as soon as possible. Are your enemies more important, or is the grand scheme of things more important? Zhou Yu asked one more question, holding his temper back. Originally, Zhou Yu hadn't wanted to say these words to Sun Ce. After all, it had not yet been 3 years since Sun Jian departed the world. He thought that Sun Ce had only just forgotten this matter after so long, but hadn't expected that he couldn't resist bringing it back up. This was definitely not his original intention. Never mind that Sun Ce hadn't said a single thing, as it turned out, in this half year since the midsummer of last year, he had never forgotten this. End chapter.